seems like conflict within a relationship could be related to perhaps like expressing some symptom of disease. So suddenly I'm expressing I have acne, or suddenly I'm holding on to body fat, or suddenly I have
Yeah.
inflammation or achy joints. And conflict's also tied into all of that, inhibiting the immune system and inflammation and all of the things. So it actually is just a one-to-one relationship. And there's an analogy of, I believe there's like a functional medicine approach to seeing like, there's conflict here. And at the root of that, there is a unmet need of feeling trust in the relationship, or there's an unmet need of feeling cared for, unmet need of feeling committed to, unmet need of feeling like any of those things. And we'll keep on fighting until we actually meet those deeper core needs. Is that, if a couple is in a cycle of fighting, would that functional medicine approach work to apply to
Yeah,
relationships?
I think so, because the thing
And
that
then
you're seeking.
how do we
Sorry.
diagnose? No, sorry, I'm interrupting you. And then
Yeah.
how do we diagnose and get in and start to, it's kind of the same question as earlier, but getting specific with those. My girlfriend's coming out from a combo ceremony. I'm in Costa Rica, and I'm a cliche person from Austin, Texas. Hi
You're
and
not in
bye.
a cold plunge right now.
See you guys.
Nothing
Yeah,
like people who just did combo coming out, which
yeah, exactly.
that doesn't sound like fun. At the basis of that, yeah, the functional medicine approach would work, because remember I was saying earlier that we're like drawn to someone who triggers us in a way that's familiar, that needs to be resolved.
Yeah,
Whether we're in a relationship or not, that way that we pursue partnership, like I finally want someone to see me, understand me, love me, we have to then give that to ourselves. So even in partnership, I have to look for, how do I give myself understanding? How do I give myself safety? How do I give myself security? Which I'm not bypassing the very real need of that in relationship.
yeah,
But usually if I don't trust you, I don't trust me. Usually if I want you to choose me, I don't choose me. So
yeah,
I'm like subcontracting what I need to give to myself to you.
yeah,
And that makes it so you have to still be around because I need you.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is you start to transition to sourcing it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is you source it for yourself, and then now you're not orienting to relationship from a place of needing that to be fixed, but actually feeling the space of the relationship is a place of healing and not a place of wounding.
Yeah,
So the specificity of it is about looking for, like, hey, when you're in those, what do you really need from them? What do you really need from your partner in that moment? You can ask them for it. I mean, I think one of the hardest things we have to do is actually ask for a need to get met. It might
yep,
get met. And then who are we when our needs get met?
yep.
We have to change our identity too.
And
Like,
how
all
do we
this
respond?
requires that.
How do we respond when we don't feel listened to the way that we want to feel listened to, or heard the way we want to be heard? And we ask for the need, and it doesn't get returned or expressed or manifested the way that we would hope, and then we're let down. And then what does that do to us?
Yeah. And then, like, are we going to keep orienting to a lack of change from the same way? Like,
Yeah,
if you keep trying to get someone to change and they keep not changing, then you need to change how you orient to that. And that's
yeah,
usually the growth. That's usually the change. That's usually the transformation. It's like, if you were to be an adult in a relationship, first off, adults don't chase people. Adults also don't ghost.
right.
Adults stand still, get clear about what their needs and expectations are. They create a space to hear that from their partner. They decide if they're going to actually be able to fulfill those things. And then they create a plan.
Yeah,
But most of us
yeah,
are not adults in a relationship
yeah. Well,
till
the
we are.
relationships draw out the aspects of ourselves where we haven't matured yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah,
the
fully.
function of relationship from like a, I don't know, like a metaphysical lens.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
feel
Like a
like
spiritual purpose.
I feel like there's an analogy of healing. You don't need to like will a cut to heal. You just get cut and you kind of, try to not
Yeah.
allow it to get too humid or too dirty, or you just kind of create the environment for it to heal. And it seems like a lot of these potential wounds or traumas or conflicts or ripples that we may experience from childhood, we're going to continue our lives seeking out the exact person, place, thing, event happening to hit us right in that spot in order to heal. And it's actually this subconscious intelligence that's seeking to heal this part within ourselves. And we'll just keep on doing that. And we'll keep on running ourselves into the exact same relationship, the exact same wall, the exact same pain until we actually get to the root and extract, that thorn or whatever metaphor works for you. And I feel like that's, and I think there actually is a physiological function in that as well, because if we're experiencing anxiety or depression or loneliness or any of that, it has physiological consequence, immediate physiological
Yeah.
consequence. And it makes us less healthy people, and it reduces our libido and reduces our potential to procreate and perpetuate the species and all of that. And so I think there's actually a subconscious intelligence that's driving us into these very particular relationship patterns in order to address that so that we can actually heal at a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual level.
I totally agree. I think like everything that's happening in our life, especially relationally, but in general, is an invitation to rise to the best possible version of you. And, you can either see the areas that you need to grow as evidence of your brokenness, or you can see it as evidence of your potential. They're the exact same circumstances, just oriented to differently.
Yeah.
And that's what an opportunity that is. Because I think I agree with you from a spiritual perspective. If we look at it that way, we can either see that it's brought into our life to change us or it's not. One's helpful and the other one's not. And
Yeah.
that's okay. I don't care what someone chooses. You might as well choose the one that orients to growth.
Yeah.
And I love the overlay to physiology, because if you look at high conflict couples, even when they're not in conflict and they put physiological measurements on them, their bodies are dysregulated. It's like they're sitting
Yep.
beside a tiger and they're not
Yep.
in conflict. But
Yep.
and also they did a study where they did a puncture on the people's arms, and the people in high conflict relationships healed slower.
Yep.
So, you think of the correlation of high conflict relationships to things like leaky gut, and you talked about anxiety, depression. Anxiety and depression, at the basis of those things, anxiety is really an inhibitory emotion. So it's like when I'm not expressing one of my core emotions, one or more of them, then let's say grief wasn't allowed when I was a kid, or rage wasn't, I might experience anxiety because I'm not safe to do the one thing. So it'll express through as anxiety. Society has taught us that if you have anxiety or depression, something's wrong with you, not something's wrong with your environment. You
Right.
inherited it from your mom. No, you inherited the behavior patterns from your mom that create that. And so to me, whenever anyone's navigating those things, I'm like, what does your environment feel like? What does not feel good in your environment? To me, healing is really not that complex. It's, what do you value? And if you can't figure that out, just look at the people you admire, because that they exude values that you want to have. And then look at your life. What's in alignment with my values and what's not? In our podcast that I did with you, you talked about like you could go out and buy red light bulbs, and all of a sudden you're the type of person who buys red light bulbs.
Yeah.
And now that seems like such a seemingly unimportant detail, but it's actually everything. Because at the baseline is you're starting to change who you are and starting to stack those changes.
Yeah. Build momentum, inertia.
Exactly. And if all of a sudden you say, I'm going to design my life around what I value, and the things that can't fit in, I'm going to invite to change to align. And if they can't, I'm going to wish them goodbye with love.
Yeah.
You'll feel liberated. Not to mention your body will get lighter, all the things. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating how it feels like it's some sort of pseudoscience to say that the heart and the body and the emotions are all connected. Like that. I used to work as a pharmaceutical rep, and I remember when the microbiome and gastroenterology was considered total bullshit.
Yep.
Like, it's just wild to me that we don't realize that trauma and the nervous system are at the core of so many things.